two sister girls talking.
Yeah, yeah.
Are
Hello,
we-
hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Healing Place podcast. It's your host, Brianna, and we have a special guest, my sister, my friend, my mentor. She's everything wrapped up in one. One of my favorite people here on this planet. So I am so excited to have Dr. Sonia Laws with us on tonight. Many of you have been introduced to her through our Teacup for the Soul, amen, that we do yearly. So I'm excited. Thank you for joining us.
thank you, Pastor Bree, for the invitation. I am honored to be in this safe place, the healing place, and I'm just excited.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited too. I'm excited too. And we were talking earlier in the week, and I think this conversation that we're gonna have tonight is gonna bless a lot of people,
Yeah.
a lot of women.
Mhm.
Because we're approaching Valentine's, and a lot of women are looking that are single. They're contemplating should they go back, um,
Mm.
should they say yes to something that is in front of them that really they're doing reaching out of desperation. So many women have been hurt um, and are in a place of bitterness. But again, it's Valentine's, so sometimes we'll override that bitterness just to have the comfort of a man.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, and I mean it's hard if you're not used to it. It's hard to say no, even though we know that what is back there is the reason that we are the way that we are. We know we need to be healed. We know we're not over it, but I want you to give a little bit of your story, and so people can understand and can know how why you're so relatable to so many women.
Well, I think for me, I am transparent in my ministry. I'm transparent when I speak to other women, and I don't mind sharing my story. I call myself a three-time offender. The Samaritan woman, the woman at the well, uh, had many relationships, have been married three times and divorced three times.
Hmm.
But God is teaching me continuously. And I have learned over the years how to appreciate singleness, how to love on myself. And as we talk about Valentine's Day, um, I've been excited about Valentine's Day because I look at Valentine's Day as every day. For
Hmm.
me, because I try to do something for myself continuously. So
Hmm.
I didn't get a chance to do it today, but I will be having an opportunity to go and prepare, getting me some flowers for my dinner and to be on my table for Valentine's Day. I've already have my meal planned out for my dinner on Monday, and
Hmm.
I will light my candles and I will celebrate me. Um, like I said, I've been married, I've been divorced, and so it's important that once you get to a point where you see that things are not working and they are
Hmm.
not beneficial to you and to your growth and to your peace of mind,
Hmm.
that you are intentional about not going back to those spaces, places, and people. And
Hmm.
so for me, for the last few years, I've been divorced since 2013, the last time. And so I think probably this is the longest period of time that I have not been in a marriage.
Wow.
Once I started getting married, this is the longest period of time that I have spent alone. Um,
Hmm.
Now I've dated since that time, and I've dated and been in a relationship for about a couple years. But I think now I'm in tune to my needs. I'm in
Yeah.
tune to where God is calling me to.
Hmm.
And peace for me is far more, can I say far more? Far more important to me than being connected to someone who drains me mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Hmm.
So I am looking for a place where I can be nourished as well as be the nourisher.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something, when you were in relationships for 3 years, and I know for me, um, when I wasn't one to be in a lot of relationships that I would say, monogamous, let me say that.
Hmm.
Because of my background, I was kinda scared to actually get into a relationship because all I saw was cheating, you know?
Hmm.
And so when I did decide to get into a relationship, um, I discovered that I'm a person who really does love that companionship.
Hmm.
And so, that relationship was very toxic. But when I left and decided that, okay, enough was enough, and I got out of it, I discovered that I had something on the inside of me that desired to to have that companionship, to have that someone to love me
Hmm.
um, so much to the point where I almost wanted to go back to what I had. And it
Hmm.
was like, what in the world is wrong with you? You know what was going on over
Yeah.
there. But it was like, but I don't like being alone. I don't wanna do this alone.
Yeah.
I wanna be able to go out and have my man on my hold his hand and
Hmm.
do all these things together. But it was like, but at the cost of your peace. This is the self-talk I would have with myself. But at the cost of your peace, you're willing to go back. And I really had to go and do some self-work and discover that, my issues were way deeper than they started way before that relationship
Yeah.
because that wanting to be with somebody, even if it meant, settling for less than what I really deserved.
Yeah. There's a song. It's an older song, but I remember it growing up. And I think it might be Betty Wright. I'm not quite sure. A piece of a man is better than no man at all. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes we have adapted. Now, some people will probably disagree because they will probably say, I've never been in that. I've never participated in man sharing. Um, but I think there have been some of us who have taken on that mantra and just held on to that piece
Mhm.
just so that we can say that we are in a connected form of a relationship. And
Mhm.
in that process, we've settled. We've
Mhm.
settled for losing our peace. We've settled for a portion of someone's love or intentions where we hadn't realized or discovered that we deserve all. We
Mhm.
deserve a full commitment. We deserve monogamy. We deserve to be in an opportunity and in a space where we can feel the love, the support, the security, the
Mhm.
safety, the all the perks, the bells and whistles that it comes in with being in a truly covenant type of relationship.
Mhm.
Now, granted, I've been in situations where I have not wanted to be in a monogamous relationship, or I didn't want to be in what I thought was a committed relationship, meaning, i.e., marriage,
Mhm.
because of my past, of how my parents were married for 24 years and consequently ended up in divorce after that time by the time I went to college. And I'm thinking, oh my God, how can you love someone and be together for so long and then all of a sudden you blow it all? You divorce. And so for me, I had commitment issues because I was afraid that it would end up like that. So a lot of times I sabotaged my relationships and did other things that were counterproductive because I didn't want to end up in a long-term committed relationship and
Mhm.
then it dissipate and I would be absolutely devastated. Well, how many people know that you're still devastated, whether
Mhm.
you're in it for 2 weeks, 5 years, 25 days, months, years, whatever it is, if
Mhm.
you have in your whole heart or even a portion of yourself. So it can be a challenge, and I would say, don't beat
Mhm.
yourself up because you've been in a situation where you stayed too long
Oh
and
god.
go back. I think if we're really honest with ourselves, at some point or another, the desire to be loved and to have companionship has outweighed some of our best judgment calls.
Mhm.
And so you just have to be gentle with yourself. You have to be at a place where you can just say, this is what I'm willing to stand for at this particular time because I can't do better. But
Mhm.
then you hopefully you'll have some good sister friends, some good friends who are of the opposite sex, some just good authentic friends to say that God wants more for you.
Mhm.
And eventually your thinking will line up to where God would have you to be, and in a relationship that brings you life versus one that brings you death and sadness all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I had did a podcast earlier this week, and just God had led me to do one on the transparency of my story, and talking
Mm,
about being in love with a narcissist,
mhm,
and the things that you go through with those type of individuals. And I can remember feeling the
mhm.
guilt of what in the world. Once I got out, what in the world was I thinking about? You
Yeah.
know, shame that came with it, and then the manipulation that I endured, and the thought pattern of going back and forth, well, maybe I could have done something better, or maybe I could have loved him a little more, or maybe if I would have lost some weight, or and thinking about different arguments we had gotten into, and it was like, well, maybe if I would have said this in another way, and it's just really hard. Um, to even get to the point where you realize that, hey, you were really in an abusive relationship.
Hmm.
Emotional abuse is worse than any type of physical abuse, because that those emotional scars seem to stay there for a lot longer time, and they're hard to heal, because you got to reprogram your mind from that thinking pattern that you had developed over time being with them.
Yeah, I wanna push the envelope a little bit, because abuse is abuse.
Hmm.
Um, the physical abuse is devastating and can be deadly. Uh,
Yes.
some of it you cannot recover because you've been with an abuser who ends up killing you,
Hmm.
or doing something that is so damaging that you are no longer cognizant and able to even mentally, physically get out of that cycle because it has been so devastating and traumatic.
Hmm.
Um, Emotional abuse, my lord, been there, done that as well. And it is a hard hole to dig yourself out of. The guilt and shame associated with, how in the world could I have allowed him to treat me like this? How in the world could I have allowed them to do these things to me that goes against all of my principles,
Hmm.
all of the things that I stand for? Um, where was my self-esteem? Where was my tenacity to be able to speak up and advocate for myself?
Yeah.
But if you've ever been at a low point in your life and you are already low, a narcissistic type of personality is a bottom feeder, is a
Mhm.
person that will feed on the weak.
Mhm.
And their intention is to prey on that, not PRAY for them, but
Right.
PRY. And
Uh-huh.
so it is a challenge because they start to isolate you. They start to give you messages that will diminish your self-worth and who you think you are.
Mhm.
They separate you, or they put you in a position where you feel like you have to pick between them or other people, and the isolation, the subtle at first isolation, then turns into this manipulative type of behavior where it no longer feels like you have a choice. And then when you choose, you have to choose, okay, I'm choosing to get along just so I can sleep peacefully tonight and I don't have to
Mhm.
hear that person's mouth, because
Right.
it's just so annoying and so traumatic that
Mhm.
you just want a little bit of peace and quiet.
Yeah.
So I've been there. And sometimes the decisions that we make, um, because we want to be loved or because we want to have a baby or to be married by a certain point in time, because you're
Mhm.
still holding on to these dreams and aspirations of having a family and things of that sort, will place you in positions where you make choices that are not necessarily the best choices for yourself. And
Mhm.
so you have some different type of consequences to those actions that you would never have thought would have taken place.
Mhm. Mhm. And then, I'm sitting here as a single woman and thinking about some of the things I have been through. And, it's not that I haven't had options to be in relationships. It's just that I have made the choice to not be in relationships just because once you have been with the bad, you don't necessarily want to even waste your time trying to get to know somebody else. And so sometimes I have to sit with myself and ask God, God, am I becoming bitter? Am
Mhm,
I um, building a wall up
mhm.
where I don't want anybody to come in here, where I want to put myself in a place where I'm going to be hurt again?
Right.
You or is it just really, people that are approaching me are just not the type of people that I want to deal with? So I have to kinda walk softly
Mhm.
because I do desire marriage. That is my desired goal, but at the same time, I don't it's just hard. It's
Yeah.
hard out here. It's hard, especially being in my position, um, and I'm sure yours when men come across women that are strong-willed, and I'm not gonna say strong-willed to the point where we can't be submissive to our if we, get into a marriage, but just strong-willed, we know who we are, we know where we're going. It's hard for men to um, come alongside and really want to be in a relationship
Mhm.
with women like I'm gonna say like us, but without trying to get you to conform,
Right.
like a level of conformity that I hear in the undertones of some men that I have talked to. And it's, you're too, because I'm passionate about what I say. So because I'm passionate about what I say, I'm angry, and I'm like, I'm not angry. I'm just passionate. This is real.
Mhm.
I really feel, or if I don't say anything, you're being too, now you're being too passive and you need to speak up. So it's like, I can't win for losing.
Yeah. I think the challenge comes in is being able to discern um, who you are. Number one, being comfortable in who you are. And what I found is that people become challenged when you know who you are and they're still trying to find out who they are.
Right.
And so when they're struggling to find out who they are, they want to shift the blame and the attention to you
Mhm.
and present it as if you have some negative characteristic traits that you need to address,
Mhm.
uh, so that they don't have to do the self work that they're called to do.
Exactly.
Confident people exude confidence.
Mhm.
And so men are never, ever, ever typically um, told that they're angry.
Mhm.
They're always passionate and they're being in their quote unquote gender specific role.
Right.
And so I think the challenge is in our society and in our culture to possibly redefine and look at why my strength challenges you so much or causes
Mhm.
you to be fearful
Mhm.
of who you are in your position. And I
Mhm.
think also our challenge can sometimes be, or what do we identify as the male voice, and
Mhm.
um, how that interacts with the female voice.
Mhm.
And so I find that initially, like you said, the strength of a very strong woman or a woman who is very sure of herself and able to articulate in a way that they let their intentions be known, their feelings, their emotions, their knowledge. um, some people are not always accepting of that and receptive.
Mhm.
But as long as who you know who you are and you walk in that, some people will be attracted to you and some people won't.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of whether or not their strength and your strength will match.
Mhm. And I think that's good because again, the Valentine's is coming up. And so, there are other women that are in my position.
Mhm,
And again, they're looking, should I settle? Should I let my guard down? And and what I believe sometimes too is that it's not even a guard. It's just your values, and because you haven't found anyone that can appreciate your values, um, and can or share the same values as you. It's not that you're being. I've been told I've been picky, and I'm not being picky. I just don't mind waiting.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah. And so, but there does come a time where, again, you're looking around, and you talked about culture. You look online and all you see are your friends with um, different men, or engagement rings, and balloons, and taking trips and things of that
mhm,
nature. And it can almost do something damaging to your, I can say, almost to your self-esteem, because if you've been single for a while, you're kind of questioning, well, what is it about me? I
mhm,
had a lady say that we had a conversation just via Facebook chat, and she had said that she had gotten out of a relationship, and she looked around and she saw other women that had gotten out of relationships, and they quickly found someone else. And I was like, well, that doesn't mean they found the right one, but at the same time, we are finding that social media is doing a lot to the confidence of
mhm,
women.
mhm. Now, I think the challenge is that it also depends on personality type. It
Hmm.
also depends on visibility. You're not going to be found at the house.
Hmm.
You go to work, you come home. Even we're talking about pre-COVID or whatever, and expect someone to just by osmosis decide, oh, okay, he that findeth a good one findeth a good wife. But you on the couch at the house.
Mhm,
So there has to be some type of visibility,
mhm,
and some type of interaction that you are responsible for as far as engaging other people. Um, but going back to your initial point about whether or not to go back, the challenge would be is why would you go back?
mhm.
You really need to have a conversation with yourself, because I truly believe that what Maya Angelou says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. We
Right.
have this expectancy that one, we want people, if I wish hard enough, or if I want hard enough, that you'll change.
Mhm,
No, they have said in so many words that I'm not changing. This is who I am.
mhm,
Believe them.
mhm.
Believe them. Um, and so it makes a difference if you go in with faulty expectations.
Yes.
And so, why are you expecting them to change?
Mhm,
You already know what it is. If
mhm,
he's an abuser, he's an abuser. I mean, I don't care how you package it, he's an abuser. If he is a person who goes out and is flirtatious and has other women, men, whomever on the side, and that is what they have shown you, that's who they are.
mhm,
And
mhm.
so it comes to be a choice of one, what's my worth?
Right,
What am I hard?
right.
What am I willing to um, deal with?
Mhm,
What am I not willing to deal with?
mhm.
Um, Now, we also, in some points, when you talk about being picky, I can't expect the same type of man that I would have expected when I was 20 years old.
Mhm,
The package is different.
mhm.
My package is different. And so when you start to think about that, you think about the realism of all of that. And one of the things that I've heard that other male counterparts have said, you want a man making six figures. What you making, boo?
Right, right.
You want him to have six-pack abs. Do you have them?
Mm-hmm.
Want one that works out and da 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 da. Are you working out? So when you're talking about what your expectations are you willing to give the same thing that you're asking for somebody else for? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
that kind of put it into a different perspective, like, that makes a little bit of difference. That even though I want him to do this, that, and the other,
Yeah.
because I feel that this might be the expectation that I grew up with, what a male does as far as providing and putting forth in a relationship. What does that look like for me?
Mm-hmm. Now, I think that's good that you brought that up. I was listening to some men talking as a podcast. I can't remember the name of it, but they were sitting around having a discussion
Mm-hmm.
about this. And they said, because there's a personality, social media personality that had made a comment about women. Um, if after 5 o'clock, if you're going on a date, expect for sex to come up. Expect for them to want sex after 5. And and I thought, well, that's crazy. But they were discussing a little bit about that. But one of the guys said that we cannot expect women to come bring um, things to the table, not
Mm-hmm.
as much as we should be bringing to the table because we are the man. And he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't necessarily saying that finances and things like that, because of course men should be able to hold their own. Because if you're going to be the husband, you have to be the head. So
Mm-hmm.
you ought to be able to financially support your family.
Mm-hmm.
But he was saying that he was saying that sometimes men are expecting too much of women. They're expecting them to bring just as much as they are.
Yeah.
And he said, well, if we are, biblically speaking, if we are the ones who are supposed to minister and pour into her, we ought to be able to do that in a way that if she comes to us and she's still broken, do we
Yeah.
have the ability to minister to her in the
Mm-hmm.
areas that she needs to be ministered to? Because if we're to be as Christ is, then there's no way that she's going to come in being
Mm-hmm.
what we in our minds think she should be. Because if the Bible says we are the weaker vessel, not necessarily meaning in our strength or who we are, but meaning that they are supposed to be the head who literally comes in and can speak to us in places to help bring and cultivate healing within us. So, what do you think?
I think the challenge is one, men don't know who they are, and we as
Yes.
women a lot of times don't know who we are, so we're
Yeah.
out of order. Second of all, I think the challenge is that if we look at it from a societal standpoint, um, the roles have changed out of desperation. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, it used to be where men courted and pursued women.
Mm-hmm.
Now women chase men. And so, for those that are waiting to be chased and pursued, we're missing out because of the fact that there's some other of our counterparts who are doing the chasing. And
Mm-hmm.
so that has turned into a situation where men don't have to do certain things that they used to do,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because it's at a standpoint where someone else is doing that. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have to call. They don't have to even buy someone's dinner. They don't have to be the one who um, is chivalrous, because we as women have sometimes taken on that role,
Mm-hmm.
and we're proposing to men now,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
buying rings and stuff. And I'm not knocking a woman who wants to do that. If that's what you want to do and you find that work for you, that's fine. That's just not me, per se. But um, it's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a conversation earlier that some of us have become so successful and so driven that we have kind of delayed certain things, marriage, children, things of that sort. And by the time that we decide that we want to get married, the way that we are now presented is quite different. You have women who are making six plus figures and, already purchased a home, already bought their luxury car, things of that sort. And so for some men who may not be at that socially economical status that they would desire to be, they feel intimidated. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a little bit different from where our grandparents were, you
Yeah.
know. So we've had some adjustments, even if we talk about it from a perspective, from a cultural perspective within the Black family. There have just been some changes. You know.
Yeah, it's really been a lot of changes. You can pull up to the gas station, and here it is. The male is sitting on the passenger side. The woman is out paying
Pumping.
and paying for the gas, and it's like, oh my gosh, when is enough enough? And then you pull home, and I'm looking at women who have husbands and they're packing all the stuff and taking it in. And I'm like, man, that's something that I'm not, for me, I'm like, I'm not going to tolerate that. I don't even let that go down with my own son. And he's my son. He knows when I pull in, if it's bags in the car, then guess what? That's his job as a man. Um,
Mhm.
but then I have my daughter who looked at me one day and she was saying that, Mom, why don't you ever let me mow the grass? Talking to, when we're talking about the roles changing. I'm like, well, that's not your job. Your job, she says, who defined what's my job? And that was coming from her then around 13, 14 years old. And she was, her mind, because of culture, because of
Mhm.
what she's seen and the things that she talked about amongst her friends, who defines the roles within relation as a man and a woman. And I thought to myself, well, I would desire that you would not want to do hard, laborious work, but you're right. If you get in a relationship and you tell your husband that's what you prefer to do, then, by all means. So, but then we can't complain about it either if that's what we're choosing to do.
True. Now, I must admit, I'm kind of like your daughter. I'm a womanist from a perspective of give me the opportunity, the option of being able to define my femininity, to define my womanhood. Um, and so, even when I got married, I wanted to cut the grass. Great exercise. Number
Yeah.
one of my spouses says, "What will the neighbors think?" There's no way that I'm going to allow you to cut the grass,
Mhm.
and because that looks negatively on me. But I have friends who are very powerfully and influential lawn care, landscaping business owners.
Mhm.
Um, so I think there needs to be conversations, but
Mhm.
I still think that there is and that goes with expectancy. What are your expectations in a relationship? Um, but for me, there's certain things that I expect, and one of the things I had conversations with my husband's, um, I'm not washing your clothes, and I'm not
Really?
and I'm not cooking every day.
I
No,
can see the cooking, but the washing the clothes,
I
really?
wash. We wash our clothes separately after a while,
Okay.
or either they wash my clothes.
Okay.
um, had some bad relationships where I didn't feel appreciated. And
Mhm.
so as a result of not being appreciated, if I take the time to wash your clothes, fold your clothes, place them on the bed or whatever, and you don't put them up and think you're not being a good steward. So you know what? I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so and then just for some things, certain things that I don't particularly like. I don't necessarily want to see your underwear. And just certain things that's just a turn off for me in
Mhm.
certain respects. And so I would not do laundry. And
Wow.
so I just left it alone. We washed our clothes independently. Everything's wonderful.
Yeah.
Everything's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yard work, things of that sort. If you weren't going to cut it, you didn't want me to cut it, then you were going to hire a person to do it.
Mhm.
Things around the house. I was more mechanically inclined just because I was the only child and my father taught me those things.
Mhm.
I always strayed away from domestic work.
Okay.
Always did. It's a form of rebellion as well. So So I hated role definitions
Mhm.
um, that had to be stuck with gender specifics.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was my defiance moment. Who says a girl can't do this? Why can't I play football? I don't understand it. And so I was still trying to evolve and find myself in
Mhm.
touch with my femininity, but I also wanted to embrace the masculine, the traditional masculine roles in certain things, because I wanted to have an equal footing and be able to, because I felt that God valued me just as much as a man. And
Mhm.
so I knew that I added value to my relationships.
Yeah.
And so I constantly pushed for my space and my place. Um, and so that just became who I've developed to be. And so that's how I've kind of participated in my ministry. Who
Mhm.
says a woman can't preach?
Yeah.
Who says a woman can't be a pastor? Who says a woman can't be a deacon? Who says it? You
Mhm.
know, so pushing the envelope. You want our money. You want us to work like a
Mhm.
slave in the church, but you don't want my leadership abilities, but actually leading, but behind the scenes, because you're taking
Mhm.
everything I say and you're using it.
Using it,
Um,
right?
so, I understand about the pushback for certain things, but I
Mhm.
think if you're going to do that pushback, don't get mad
Mhm.
when they don't fulfill your expectations.
Right.
So, you're going to stay, be happy.
Mhm.
But if you don't have peace and you leave, then you need to make a decision. Why am I going back? Am I coming back because it's comfortable,
Mhm.
it's familiar, um, and I'm afraid of being alone? A
Mhm.
lot of people are just afraid of being alone.
Mhm. And with COVID, and us all being on lockdown, it really caused a lot of people to have to really sit alone because now you don't have the social activities you used to have. Now you're having to sit in the house and be just with yourself. And a
Hmm.
lot of people had never sat with themselves. And what they found out was that they really did not like themselves. And so they needed that noise. They needed that other person to keep them sane, whether it was half a man or somebody else's man. They didn't care. Just
Hmm.
give me something so that I don't have to sit with myself. And I wanted to talk about and touch on sex. So we know that we're Christian women, but everybody's not saved, and then some people are saved and having sex.
Hmm.
That's just the truth of the matter. And some people are wanting, just hey, just for the intimacy part of 'cause Valentine's equates to love. So I want to go and get my needs met because there's this empty void on the inside that nobody wants to talk about. But we're not
Hmm.
going to talk about the void that you're really trying to feel. But the thing about I just need to go get me some. It's
Hmm.
Valentine's. Um, so I want us to touch base on the dangers of just giving your body away and what comes along with that, especially if you're trying to heal. Or
Yeah.
if you know, so what do you want to say about that?
Okay, so I'm just going to just be transparent from the perspective of I am saved, have been saved, and still been sexually active or intimate. The challenge is, what is it that you desire?
Mm-hmm.
Are you just trying to um, meet your needs? Well, from a physical perspective and from a biological perspective, from a health perspective, you can meet your own needs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's just be real clear. Number two, um, the emptiness that you felt prior to that, I'm sad to report to you, you're going to still have that same sad, empty
Yeah.
feeling, because it becomes now empty sex. And then
Mhm,
it's going to be sex remorse.
mhm,
Um, like, I don't know why I came and did this. I know he wasn't any good. I knew that it wasn't going to go anywhere. You find yourself back in a place where you thought you had healed,
mhm,
only to discover you have to start the process all over again.
Yes.
That is a horrible feeling.
Mm-hmm.
When you have gone through, you kind of purged, it's been 6 months. Whew, I'm getting them out of my system. And then you allow yourself to take that second dip and go back down that memory lane, only discover it might last 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
But after that 30-day period, you're angry, you
Mm-hmm.
become bitter,
Mm-hmm.
because now you're mad at yourself. You want to take it out on everybody else, but you come mad at yourself because why did I allow myself to fall for this mess all over again? It wasn't worth it. It
Mm-mm.
just wasn't worth it. I haven't found it to be worth it. Because it goes back and it sets you off and it puts you in a place where it's like a drug.
It
And
is.
it never means it never reacts or impacts your body in a positive manner. It all
Mm-mm.
has psychological impacts, it has
Mm-hmm.
spiritual impacts, it has physical impacts, um mind, body, soul, um
Yeah.
just devastation.
Yeah. And what people don't realize is that, first of all, your sex will never be good enough to keep anybody. I don't care if you're swinging from chandeliers. I don't care if you're built like a brick house. It doesn't matter. Sex is never going to be good enough to get somebody and keep them. Or if you're in a relationship with somebody who's just a cheater, it's not going to ever be good enough. And so you going to go have sex. Number one, I don't believe women can have sex without the emotional ties. If you continue to do it, maybe once, okay. But if you continue to do this thing, I have not I've not ever experienced where I never got a emotional tied to somebody. We know about the spiritual, but the emotional tie that comes along with it. And so there became where I might not had an expectation of us going any further, but later on, if I kept continuing to do it, there was a level of expectation
Yeah,
that came along with it. And so, like you said, the only person who ended up disappointed was me,
yeah,
because men can do it and not have any emotional connection, anything, and go
right,
on. But
yeah,
we as women, I have not.
yeah.
And even with those who said that they could,
Hmm.
if you talk to them over a course of time, especially when the man is going and doing his own thing, there's a level of bitterness, anger,
Yeah,
and
it
I
comes
don't.
in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll
Mm-hmm.
come out in different ways. Even if you think that there is no connection, you're just doing it to be doing it, whether or not you're a sex worker or you're just doing it for something to be done, or um, whatever the case is, and you may have multiple partners. If one of the people in your rotation changes and you haven't filled that position and that person is spending more time with you and so forth and so on, something changes. It changes the dynamics of it, which can be a deadly cycle. um but at some point or another, you just got to make some decisions. What am I gaining?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be able to look at the gains as well as the losses, and most times the losses far outweigh the gains.
Mm-hmm.
And so Valentine's Day, what is Valentine's Day? What is Valentine's? Are you the type of person that you just want to show off? You just want some flowers, to say that somebody sent some flowers to your job. Send yourself some flowers to your job.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to tell everybody that you sent them.
Right.
I mean, if you're looking for the attention of it all, um, do something for yourself,
Mhm,
because you should know and you should love yourself. And so love on yourself.
mhm,
That's how you teach yourself how you want to be treated,
right.
um, and what your level of expectation is. And my friends would pick on me because they say, "Oh, you got a date tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, not necessarily talking about Valentine's Day, but just in general. If I was, when I was dating and I would go out, and they
Mhm,
say, please don't take him. Don't, please, if he asks you where you want to go, please don't tell him you want to go to Ruth's Chris. Please don't tell him that. Well, if that's where I want to go,
right.
that's where I want to go. and
Mhm.
I'm going to go there with enough money so in case if he decides that he's not going to pay, or if he,
Mhm.
gets spazzed out or whatever, I still can pay. uh,
Mhm.
but it's something that I take myself to. So
Mhm.
why wouldn't I um, introduce that to you? Because that's who I am.
Right.
That's what I like. And
Mhm.
so I'm not trying to be in a situation where I'm misleading you and
Mhm.
saying, hey, we can go to K&W cafeteria for our first date, and that's how it's going to be. No, that's not how it's going to be. Now, there's nothing wrong with K&W cafeteria if they're open, but um, that's not where I choose to eat all the time. And
Mhm.
so every now and then I want to go here, and I
Mhm.
like fine dining. And so that's the experience that I like to experience with you. And I think it's a good opportunity to determine where our needs are, what our expectations are, what our likes and dislikes are.
Mhm. And I think you brought up a very, very good point because a lot of times we got to learn how to love ourselves. I think at
Hmm.
the end of the day, in all that we have talked about, we have got to get to a point where we learn to love ourselves. And we got to get to a point where we can love ourselves with um with the expectation of knowing that success in everybody else's eyes may not be what success is in yours.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when you get your mind focused in on what I call healing your soul, the hole that's in your soul, the wounds that you have incurred over time, and really get to know who you are, who God called you to be, what your purpose is in
Hmm.
life, and you learn to really live in that, in your singleness.
Hmm.
When it is time for you to date or get married, it won't be as hard as what you have experienced in the past. Why? Because now you know who you are. You're not looking to marry for somebody to fulfill anything in you because you're already fulfilled.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't. You're dating with purpose,
Hmm.
for marriage, and hopefully you are going to marry your. And I always say purpose partner,
Hmm.
because you know who you are.
Yeah.
If I'm his helpmeet, then that, and he's going to love me as Christ loves me. Then guess what? Our purposes has to line up anyway.
Hmm.
you know and so you're very confident in who you are, you're confident in what you do, what you know, he's confident in him, and the relationship can't do nothing but blossom from there. You're going to have your ups and you're going to have your downs, but because you know who you are, you don't have any area where if he says something, that you wear the spirit of offense.
Hmm.
I believe a lot of times women do wear the spirit of offense more easily on very minute areas because they are unhealed. Well, that touched something in you that hurt,
Hmm.
and now you don't want to talk about what really has hurt you. You're telling me about your as a, when I see different women within different sessions, you're telling me about your husband.
Hmm.
Your husband said that you've gained weight and that just sent you to a whole nother place. I can't understand why he said that to me. The nerve of him, you're going on and on. I've heard him go on and on 30, 40 minutes. And at the end, I'm like, well, I need to know, why did that bother you
Hmm.
so much? What
Hmm.
is it in you that triggered this emotion?
Hmm.
What do you mean? That's my husband. He shouldn't say stuff like that. But
But is
why?
it true?
Right, right. You know you've gained 20 pounds. But
Hmm.
but still, why did it trigger you to the point where you felt like he was just so doggone wrong? Is it
Yeah.
really that you are feeling insecure about yourself?
Hmm. Hmm. And that's true. I mean, like I said, I've been married 3 times and divorced 3 times. And it's only at this particular time in my life where I understand. The Lord would go back and show me some conversations and some situations and stuff. And I'd be like, man, that was not worth getting divorced about. Um, it showed how I was unwilling to compromise. It was my way or the highway. Three
Mhm,
straight, you're out, that
mhm,
type of thing. And it all stemmed from the fear of someone else leaving me
yeah,
after such a long period of time. And so, you got, even though I had been going to therapy, even though I thought I was very intelligent about certain things, um, you're constantly evolving. We think that we're marrying the people and they're going to stay the same way.
Mhm.
We evolve as people. So many times, just like that young lady that you're talking about, you get offended behind something that someone says to you, and you don't realize, was that really directed at me, or was there something else up under that conversation or that comment that really wasn't directed at me? It just kind of came out as a lash out to me, but it really wasn't. And
Mhm.
did I really ask for that comment? But
Mhm.
I just didn't like the way that it came out and the way that it landed on me, because I'm feeling some way about myself
Mhm.
and I know I've gained weight. So now I'm feeling that same way. So now I want to take it out on you because
Mhm.
you have feelings.
Mhm.
Did I
Mhm.
want him to lie? But I keep telling somebody I want the truth. I want you to be honest with me,
Right.
but you don't like it when I am honest with you. And then
Mhm.
in turn, we also find people that um we do the same things to them.
Yes.
We do the same things to them. And so it's a challenge for us to really sit with ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, and I highly recommend, don't necessarily look for a date for Valentine's Day. Be your own date.
Mhm.
Learn how to date yourself so that you know what your expectations are. Can you
Mhm.
pay for your own meal? Can you go out in public and sit at a table by yourself and enjoy your own company?
Mhm. Mhm.
Can you enjoy going and to the movies by yourself? I
Mhm.
have friends that say, "Oh, I do not understand how you can go to the movies by yourself. I don't know how you can sit. I get my food and I take it home. I'm not going to sit at that table by myself."
Yeah.
What? Well, I'm not going to go and pay this amount of money. Go during restaurant week. I didn't say just because I like this restaurant that I go and pay full price.
Mhm.
It's your perception.
Right.
So be open minded to dating and getting to know yourselves, knowing what you like. You can
Mhm.
observe other people. I like when I'm out on a date or when I'm with someone that they open my door.
Mhm.
I like to for you to come around and get my door. I
Yeah.
like for you to open my door. Some people, it doesn't make any difference to them. But when I'm dating, that's an expectation. I'll wait and see if that's something that you do naturally.
Mhm.
But then I'll also observe if you don't do it. I'll say it. I don't say it like I used to say it, where you're supposed to open a door for me and just going off. I say, what, it really makes me happy when someone opens the door for me. I
Mhm.
just think that it's just so um chivalrous, or um it really makes me happy.
Mhm.
And people are willing to accommodate you and do things. But what we don't realize is that everyone hasn't been taught the same things um,
Mm-mm.
that we've taught. We come from different backgrounds and experiences. And so everybody doesn't have the same experience. And some of it can be remedied with general conversations.
Right, and I think that's what we lack in this, day and time. I have more people who want to text me to death, and it's like, let's have a conversation because I wanna conversate and not do all this texting because I can't say what I really wanna say in that text.
Yeah.
Um, and so when you do get on the telephone with people, they because of the level of communication that um, they have through this text,
Yeah.
the actual conversation talk is
Yeah.
very limited. So they have really decreased in their articulation
Yes.
and
Yes.
don't know how to articulate their feelings, their wants, and their needs.
Yeah, their skills are lacking because we've become such a technologically savvy type of people, where if we're not on Instagram or Facebook or
Mhm.
Snapchat, Twitter, whatever, that we are not conversing.
Mm-mm. No. And, I think it's really sad because I love to have conversations with people who, of the opposite sex who are really intelligent because it makes me want think. It makes me go and read. It makes me go and study. It makes me want to be better.
Mhm.
And so when I get someone on the phone and their conversation is limited and or comes from a very limited perception, or it bothers me. Or
Mhm.
having a conversation with somebody who can't see both sides, um, that bothers me as a woman. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know if I could really sit here and be in no relationship with you for no long term because we can't even talk. We can't have an intelligent conversation, or you're getting mad because I don't agree with something that you're saying. You
Mhm.
know, it's funny how people have become over
Mhm.
the course of such a small amount of time. So my mom used to tell me um, when I was younger, she would say, "You teach a man how to treat you."
Mhm.
And I couldn't understand then, but now I understand you do. Because if I, like you said, if I want my door open, I need to communicate. I want my door open,
Mm.
you
And
know.
it's how we communicate that
Hmm.
makes a difference. Um, and that goes across the board. We model the behavior of how we desire people to treat us.
Hmm.
And yeah, it makes a difference.
Hmm.
I've discovered from a lot of experience that tone and timing make a difference.
It does.
It
It really
makes it.
does. It does. And we're gonna have to, I want us to do another a part two of this. And I want us to talk about what has pricked my spirit. I want us to talk about forgiving ourselves
Mm,
after forgiving
yeah,
ourselves.
after the
Because
fact.
a lot of time, I know for me, Sonya, it took a long time to get to the point where I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, Brianna, you saw all those red flags.
Hmm.
You chose to run past all of them
Yep.
and still get into a situation
Yep.
that you saw,
Yep.
and so after, the aftermath of it is, okay, now they teach you, you got to forgive, but how do you forgive yourself?
Yes. That's the hardest piece of the puzzle, I do believe.
Yeah. So I want us to have another I want us to get back together and I want us to really talk about that on and I want to set that one up where we can take questions, but I thank you for doing this with us tonight. I really enjoyed it.
I
I,
did too.
I did too. I love having conversations like this where we can just be transparent and be real because a lot of people are failing. I'm gonna say failing at life because they don't have a place where they can go to and say, "This is me.
Yeah.
These are my experiences." Because so many people are quick to judge,
Yeah.
to
They
judge,
are.
or forget where they come from. It's like, my Lord, you know, don't forget where you came from. I know, Lord knows, I don't forget where I come from. I try never to forget because I don't never want to repeat the past. But
Yeah. It makes a difference. People need to be affirmed and to understand that they're loved and appreciated for who they are, flaws and all, because we all have flaws, and
mhm.
realize that God is a healer and a forgiver, and we need to learn how to forgive ourselves and each other.
Yes, we do. Each other too. Yeah. Now that right there, each other. And
Yeah.
yeah, I want us to really do it because I want us to talk about, the church
Yes.
forgiving each other. We are so quick. Oh gosh. Yeah. So
Very.
I want to say that for our next conversation. But again, I thank you. I thank everybody who joined us for our broadcast on today. I pray that you share it. You got something out of it. Please leave a comment, share how you felt, what you got out of it, and let me know if you want to hear Dr. Sonia again. She's loved. When I tell y'all, she has so much wisdom. And that's what a lot of young ladies need, is to be able to come and sit and glean from someone who has been there and done that.
Mhm.
It would save them. So again, we thank you. And hopefully you will join us again next week.
We appreciate it. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for the invitation, Dr. Bree.
you're
Yeah,
welcome.
spoke that into existence, right?
I know. Look, I'm like, okay.